Hey guys, we're back in the garage and today we're talking about cycle carts, specifically the MonoCart. Okay guys, so this cart, my son and I built this in 2016 following building the Viscount Vincent. We originally built the red car to share, and we decided after building the first one that cycle carts were so much fun, we'll build another one. This did not start out as a WarBird themed cart. Originally it was going to be a 1911 MonoWasp. 1911 MonoWasp was the first Indy 500 winner, and that's what our original goal was. In fact, we did a lot of design work on it, sketches. We designed and built the frame, started gathering parts, and we made a trip out to Vintage Kart Co. in Mesa, and they had this little cycle cart sitting there with a WarBird theme. And if you know anything about the Vintage Kart Co. carts, they're basically Dennis Thomas's mono car nose, and they basically copied the overall design of the mono car and jazzed it up by changing the theme. So one might be red, blue, different colors, but this one was a kind of a army green. There's little exhaust pipes on it. Has this shark face P40 Warhawk theme on it, and my son at the time was 9, decided that was the coolest thing he's ever seen. And because his great grandfather was a World War II pilot, we decided, yeah, let's do that. Let's build a World War II theme cycle cart. So this is a little outside the norm for cycle carts. So what this is a car that might have existed in reality, in history, if somebody had done this. And we know Jay Leno's garage has a few of these aero power cars. Kelly Wood and a few others are building aero power or aero designed cars for racing. But at the time in 2016, that had not been done yet. So we came up with the idea that a young man went to World War I as a pilot and came back and wanted to be a race car driver. So he put a airplane motor from a SPAD or one of those European airplanes. In this case, it would be a Liberty J12 motor, which is a 12-cylinder motor. A lot of times we put them in racing boats and things like that back in the 20s. And he built a race car out of it. And then 20 years go by, he has a family, he puts the race car away, and his son now is going off to World War II and is a pilot. And the idea is he goes in the garage and finds his dad's old race car, and now because he's a pilot familiar with speed and all this sort of stuff, he has the bug. And that's just about the same time that all the racing's happening in Southern California. And so the story would be that he uses that motor out of his airplane, which would have been a P40 Warhawk or a P38 or P39. Those all have the Allison V12 motors in them, which are like 1,200 horsepower. So this car in its current form is designed as if it has that Allison 12-cylinder motor in it. And my Stephen's great-grandfather, my namesake Stephen Joseph's son, was a pilot in World War II. He flew the P38 and P39. And his squadron also had P40s in it. They had all four, and all four of those airplanes have this common motor of that Allison V12. So that's where the theme came from. So we worked up these designs, and this has never really competed at any level other than what my son has driven at a couple events. Wilcox, it's been down there for a couple times with its new owner, and I think it was at the Clarkdale Grand Prix. We drug it up to the first Huntsville Grand Prix, but it did not compete because Stephen didn't attend that. So it was just there kind of on display. So I'll walk you through briefly some design of it. This is the front axle. This is all in the build file. This is Dennis Thomas. This is basically his design that we modified slightly to fit our needs. And this is not 1.5 inches, it's actually 1.5 inches. That's just a typo. But back in 2016 and 2017, we developed the parts list for this car. So all the parts that are on here, I'm going to lay this down so you can read it easier. Kind of scan down the page. So all these parts are still available. Vintage Kart Co. is no longer producing these items, but Renegade Cycle Karts is. Okay, so we put this cart together back in 2015. It went together pretty quickly. The frame is a real basic frame, ladder frame. It's on all of my carts. 1x3 construction, 0.63 thickness. The front axle, same thing. Recently we did upgrade the tie rods on this cart because they were bending at the orchard where they drive this, or the vineyard rather. These tie rods are bending at the pitman arms, and we discovered a few things. We fixed on that, so now they shouldn't do that anymore. But we got the simulated exhaust pipes. These are just aluminum tubes mounted in a little box, and we welded in there. Everything else is riveted on. You see these rivets everywhere. So all these aluminum panels are powder coated and then riveted to a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch steel tubing. So there's a hoop here and a hoop here that attach to the frame. a couple 1/2-inch tubes that go back to support this part so you can get yourself in and out. There's another hoop back here behind the seat, and a 4th hoop here. You see the rivets across here. It's got way more framing in it than it really needs. At the time I thought it needed that much framing, but it really, CycleKarts can't be much lighter than this. This is a little over-designed. So you got this neat little tail fin for the number on it. The motor in this is a bone stock GX200. Nothing has been modified, although we are missing the plastic cover. The current owner took it off and lost it, so we're going to find a replacement piece for that. It's got the standard Comet brand torque converter, TAV 30, I believe it is. So it's all bone stock. It's got a 40 chain. We are running a 10-tooth, I believe it's a 10-tooth 60. Yeah, it's a 10 tooth on the sprocket, or on the torque converter, and a 60 tooth on the axle. These wheels are Vintage Kart Co.'s Thailand reproduction Honda CT90 wheels with Vintage Kart Co. hubs and Vintage Kart Co. front spindles. These are 5/8-inch spindles. These are the original spindles from 2016. They've never failed. I've seen other guys breaking them, but these have been fine. It does have one key in the rear wheel, so only one wheel powers this car, and the other wheel is a freewheeler. So when you hit the brakes, only one wheel skids. It's got real vintage aircraft gauges in it. It's got a radar direction finder and a airspeed indicator. I bought these from an airplane recycling yard. One is from 1946, the other is from 1942. Date codes on the back. This red switch contains a kill switch, so this is the drive position. You have to flip it up, and that would kill the motor. And we did that because when we drove the VKC cars, they had a kill switch like that too, but it always had to be on to run the car. And people were constantly flipping it by accident while they're driving and killing the motor. It has mechanical brakes, so if you go on the other side, you'll see this mechanical rod that attaches to the brake pedal up front. It goes all the way back and attaches to the Earhart mechanical brake, disc brake on the back. Pretty standard CycleKart stuff. Those are the Azusa pedals, just mounted on a little 1" by 1" tube frame structure to hold the pedals in place, and they're bolted to the aluminum floor. There's very little wood in this. The only wood in this is really in the seat bottom and the seat back behind the upholstery here. So if you unbolt the upholstery here, there's a little bit of wood there on the back of the seat just for the upholstery guy to staple his upholstery to. We have this little fake flip cap here. This is just an access port really to put fuel in the car. So you put a funnel through here, you can reach in with your hand, take your cap off, and put fuel through there. So it's kind of looks like kind of a neat racy deal. So there it goes. We added a windscreen after the car was originally built. We added this actually shortly before we sold it. We thought, well, I needed this little windscreen on here to make it look right. I think it looks kind of cool. The Fighter Squadron insignia on the side. This is the 68th Fighter Squadron, the Lightning Lancers. Those are my grandfather's and Steven's great-grandfather's squadron logo. So this squadron existed from World War II up until the 2000s. Let's see what else about this. Oh, so the current owner, Sam Pillsbury, and his family bought this from me 2 years ago. And they run the Pillsbury Wine Company down in Wilcox. And they have a tasting room up in Cottonwood, so if you're in those areas, stop in and see those guys, great people. Last year in October, they had a little problem with the steering and suspension. And Sam asked me to upgrade and fix that, so that's what we did. So that's why it's back in the garage right now. And that's why we can make this little video. So I appreciate Sam for letting me do a little work on this. I kind of missed this cart. Sentimental about it a little bit. What else can I tell you about this? It's been a great little car, being bone stock. Really easy to drive. It's not overpowered, it's not underpowered. It keeps up with traffic in the CycleKart events. The brakes work fine, being bone stock. It is very light, about 255 pounds. Just a great little CycleKart. So hey guys, I appreciate you watching these videos. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz, and we appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one. Get out of the garage and build something cool.